The last time I talked about Battlefield 1, I mentioned that I'd basically quit playing the game and there were only a few things they could really do to try and bring me back. That was 10 months ago, so they've had plenty of time to manage to do those things and win over my trust again and bring me back to playing the game and playing the Battlefield I know and love and am more than willing to spend a couple hundred hours on. So, have they? Nope. No, they tried, and I'll admit that they did a lot of improvements to Battlefield 1. It's definitely become a much better game than it originally was, and a much better game than it was when I talked about it before. They've actually done significant improvements. The DLC drip feed has been very slow, and the last DLC has just dropped recently. Now, that may be harsh to say that I don't think I'm going to come back, even though they just dropped more DLC and added more stuff I would like and would probably want to come back for. But I honestly didn't even know that that DLC was dropping until I decided to go ahead and make another video talking about the game at this point. Which means they really haven't had my attention that much. I've barely thought about this game at all. However, they did do a lot of good things. They added back in specializations, the perk kind of system from the previous games. However, the game doesn't really feel built around them. It feels like they were just kind of randomly added in, and it's kind of a strange mix match where I both like it and I appreciate the thought, but it doesn't really work at the same time. They added significantly more weapons to unlock, which I can't really fault them there. That's actually a massive improvement and something I specifically was asking for. It's something I very much so wanted in the game, and I'm very happy they added. However, I'm unsure if they really did enough. As much as I enjoyed unlocking the new weapons, they kind of all felt out of place. There were new automatic weapons, with some of them being just straight up machine guns that I'd never heard of or seen before, some that seemed like mounted LMGs that are now just not mounted, and a straight up assault rifle for medic. And they never really gave us any new tools or kit items to play around with. The game didn't really advance in any way, and it didn't make any significant changes, which makes sense to a amount. It is still catering to the fans who still like it, more so than it was catering to the fans it lost at this point. It's not so much trying to bring me back, but keep the people who are already there still playing. And I think that makes sense. If you made a game and then half the fan base dropped off and half the fan base stayed, and you had to either try to keep that other one half happy or the other half be brought back by making changes that could make the halves already there happy, even though it might not make the half that left happy, you're going to pick the safer route and try to keep the half that stayed happy, even if they ended up not liking the stuff as well. But from what I can tell, they really enjoy it. The Battlefield community has seemed to really have a liking to Battlefield 1, really taken to it, really seem to enjoy it and want to continue playing it and loving it and all the updates it gets. I doubt there's going to be too much more now that the final DLC has dropped, but there's hope. They could still continue to do updates and make changes that would improve the game, add new loot crates, new customization, things like that, but it being the Apocalypse DLC and them handing out the end-time crates for it doesn't really help that idea that much. It is a lot of good stuff. The new maps are actually good and surprisingly different. The newest maps for Apocalypse being some of the better for Conquest I've ever seen, where it actually feels like being in trenches, trying to hold back and fight across no man's land at time, trying to fight for Conquest Assault. The updates and changes in maps have been fantastic. Well, not really the updates, but the changes to the maps and the layouts and the way they've handled them has been significantly better. It feels and looks more like a World War game than it ever did before. It just feels like a World War I game. And that's something that it honestly didn't before. It felt kind of like a Battlefield game with a skin, the same way Hardline did. Hardline took significant changes to get away from that, and so did Battlefield 1. I just feel like the changes Battlefield 1 made weren't ones I personally enjoyed that much. While the game has improved, the gameplay hasn't. The gameplay went and stayed basic the whole time. LMGs get more straight shooting the longer you shoot them. The classes are still weird and they still kind of hate support. The snipers still have a one-shot kill that's at range instead of up close. It's a weird mixture of things that I don't really appreciate or like. It's not things I want them to add to Battlefield, it's things I'd want them to take out. It's a much more basic system, and I wasn't wanting them to make it a more basic game. I'd want them to improve and expand upon the Battlefield gameplay in ways that are meaningful, and DICE doesn't seem to understand how to do that. Them saying they don't understand why fans like Bad Company 2 is the easiest example of saying DICE straight up doesn't know how to make fans happy, because Bad Company 2, adding things from that into current games, would improve it significantly. We don't have meaningful destruction in Battlefield 1. We don't have classes that feel varied enough or special enough to be different. I mean, yeah, they feel different in Battlefield 1. They're just not good different. It's also disappointing to see that they never actually allowed all the classes to use a primary bolt-action rifle or something of the sort, even if it didn't get a one-shot kill range and was still just one-shot headshot. They even gave everyone a bolt-action pistol. I don't see why a actual rifle would be such a bad thing. The same for shotguns or even a single-shot rifle. It's World War One. Not everyone had SMGs, not everyone had fully automatic weapons. However, with almost every class, you can get yourself a fully automatic weapon, but not a bolt-action rifle. It's dumb. It's a lot more basic, a lot more not something I like. And honestly, speaking as someone who loves Battlefield and is more than willing to come back and play more, if they don't revert back to the older style, if they don't go back to the things that made the other games fun, I probably won't get the next one. If it's just World War II and it still has all the same basic, much more simplistic gameplay of this one, I don't think I'll enjoy it at all. They could easily switch back to either one, though. Who knows what we'll see in the future. Hopefully, the next Battlefield will be one I enjoy more and keep and stick with. Who knows, though? Only time will tell.